87% of Americans support term limits for members of Congress, according to Pew Research. But despite the overwhelming bipartisan support from voters, legal hurdles and institutional resistance have prevented term limits from becoming law. Our next guest is hoping to change that with his nonpartisan organization. Please welcome the founder of Term Limits for a Stronger America, Bert Accomando.
Thank you.
Bert, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So you've got a very interesting story. You emigrated to the United States from Italy as a child.
Right.
You went on to run a dozen successful businesses, but then you decided to start Term Limits for a Stronger America. What made you want to start this organization?
To be honest, it was my wife's fault.
It often is.
Basically, everyone's complaining about what's going on in politics. It's been going on forever. So my wife said either shut up or do something, and I'm doing something.
That's very good advice.
This is a worthwhile endeavor. Like you said, 87% of the population wants term limits, and it's probably the best job in the world to be a congressman in Washington, D.C. And the reason is 20% of the general public has any faith in them, and their ability to get reelected is about 95%. That's like working for somebody and you got a guaranteed job for a long, long time. So it's time that we, the people, stand up and do something about it. And that's the whole purpose of my being here today and starting Term Limits for a Stronger America.
Absolutely. Well, what are the term limits you would like to see? I worked in the House of Representatives, which, to remind folks, is 2-year terms, and then the Senate is a little longer; it's 6 years. So, what do you think is the appropriate range?
We did a fair amount of studying on this. We looked at some of the states that have it and other countries. It seems that 3 terms for the House, which is a total of 6 years, and 2 terms for the Senate, which is a total of 12 years. The average stay in Congress for a senator is just under 12 years anyway. And the average for the House is about 8 or 9 years. So we're close to it. The real issue we have is that there's some people that just outstay their welcome, to be honest with you. You have congressmen that have been there for 40, 50 years, even longer than I've been alive. Just kidding.
Longer than I've been alive. Well, despite living through very divided times, this is actually the overwhelming majority of voters do support term limits for members of Congress. But why do you think there's such a disconnect between the public sentiment and then what we're actually seeing in Washington, where there really hasn't been any real movement on term limits in recent years? The
job is just too good. They don't want to leave. When lobbyists spent $4 billion a year and that's $8 million per congressperson to keep them there, that's scary. But we, the people, are the ones that are suffering for it. There was a really cool study done by the University of Pennsylvania, and it was followed up by the University of Northwestern, that basically said that if lobbyists want a specific bill passed, they have an 80 to 90% chance of getting it passed. Wow. If we, the people, want a bill passed, we have less than 20%. Wow. So we do have an issue, but it's a system issue. It's not a people issue. I think there's really good people in Congress, but the system eats them up and chews them out. We can change that.
Well, it's really interesting you say that. I often use the statistic. Unfortunately, we so often talk about gun violence on this show, and there's a poll from Fox News of all places that 86% of Americans support background checks. But the disconnect between the overwhelming bipartisan public support and then the lobbyist influence there is the big impediment. Yeah. So it is really more institutional than public. But I want to ask you, as you mentioned, a lot of members of Congress actually run on supporting term limits. I think of Senator Ted Cruz, he supports them. He's called for 2 terms, but he's actually currently on his 3rd term right now. So how do you have Congress sort of police itself on this? Will that ever happen?
The founders came up, they're pretty smart guys. I got to give them credit. We've been around almost 250 years under the same political system. And they were afraid that Washington or the central government or the federalist government was going to overpower the people. So they gave us a second option to getting a constitutional amendment. It's called Article 5 Convention. If we, the people, decide that we want to have a constitutional amendment to change term limits, we need 34 states to vote for it. And if 34 states vote for it, Congress is not involved. They must call a constitutional convention. Therefore, we're not subject to the games, the silliness, or whatever you want to call it that goes on in Washington. We have the control. We, the people, have the control. And that's what this movement is all about.
It's a good reminder. There's another way to do it that doesn't require Congress.
Right. Congress can call for a constitutional amendment, and they need, I think, 66% of Congress. But they still have to go to 38 states to ratify it. If we get 34 states that say, we want to have a constitutional convention on this specific item, we can do that. We can.
So one of the pushbacks to term limits, because I used to kind of waffle on this, and now I'm very much in support of them, but is that there is institutional knowledge that longer-term members of the House and Senate bring, and that perhaps newer members may not. I think of the Armed Services Committee or the Appropriations Committees that have complex jobs. What would you say to the concern that you might have people kind of learning the job every few years as they come in?
The facts don't support that, to be honest with you, okay? Their jobs is not that complicated. 85% of the bills that are passed are done by the lobbyists, or written by the lobbyists. That's one. The second thing is, most CEOs, I think their average length is about 7 years. So we're giving them 12 years. That's enough time to learn what is really going on. I will give them credit. They're really good politically. They do understand how to play the political game. But we're going to try to overcome that by enforcing we the people process.
Well, and that's what I want to close by asking you. So for people who want to see term limits in Congress, how do you recommend they make their voices heard?
Okay. This has been around for a long time, as you know. So we've joined forces with other organizations that have wanted term limits for a long time. The one organization that's been around for 35 years, plus years, is U.S. term limits. They are working the inside game. They're dealing with state legislatures and so on. But every amendment that's been passed has been forced by we, the people. So we, as Term Limits for a Stronger America, are going to take that process on. We're doing a national campaign, education campaign on term limits, why we need them, and what the process is in place. So combine the inside game with the outside game. This is the first time it's being done. So I'm kind of hopeful that we can pull it off in
It's very important work. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and thank you for watching.